Pupils at a Cape Town high school are protesting the dismissal of the principal by refusing to attend classes. Heathfield High's Wesley Newman was fired for insubordination and misconduct. The Provincial Education Department says he refused to follow instruction to reopen the school during the COVID-19 pandemic. Pupils are now refusing to learn until Newman is reinstated. eNCA's Monique Mortlock is at the school this morning. Good morning, Monique. A very interesting case of these learners. So they're protesting for the principal to be reinstated. What exactly is at the heart of this matter?
What's at the heart of the matter is that learners, parents and community members feel they haven't been properly consulted by the WCED about what's currently happening. There's currently a transition process taking place in which the WCED has placed two caretaker principals who were supposed to start yesterday until they find someone more permanent in the position. Now, for those viewers who don't know, Mr. Wesley Newman was given the option by the WCED after they found him guilty on 6 counts of misconduct of either accepting a demotion or of being transferred to a different school. Mr. Newman declined both options, saying that he will fight or try to appeal that decision with the bargaining council. But while that battle is going on here at Heathfield High School, parents, pupils and community members have been fighting for Mr. Newman. And just from, you won't be able to see it now, but from where I'm standing, I've been able to see on the school grounds pockets of pupils milling around, and from what I've heard, this has been their way of also protesting, refusing to go to class, refusing to carry on as per normal despite exams coming up soon, because they also want answers and they refuse to accept what they've been given from the WCED just by the conversations that I've heard from them. And to give us a take from a parent's perspective, I'm speaking to Kathy Weingard. Kathy, let's first start with the fact that you said this didn't just start yesterday. It's been coming on for a couple of weeks, these protests by pupils, by parents, by community members.
Good morning. Yes, it has been. We've been here for the couple of 2 weeks now, observing what is going on. Me, myself as a parent and the other parents, 4 or 5 parents, been here since day one with these children. What we saw here was that the children are not really going back into class. They're on the school premises, but they're not in class, and this was a worry for us. That's why we were here to support the teachers and the principal on the school to see what we can do so our children can go back into classes, because the June exams are starting. We've been protesting here because the WCED are just sending people in here left, right and center, not consulting with parents, as we are parents and this are a school fees. School, we are paying for our children to come here, and I think we've got the right to have a say in what is going on. If there is no teachers, as you can see here on the school ground, there is so little cost, so little teachers for the children on the school to go into class, to go and learn. You tell me, how can a teacher teach 5 to 7 children in a class? Parents, I want to ask of you, man, we've got 1,200 learners on the school. We've got 200 matriculants that must write their exams. We've got the other learners also. How can you as a parent just sit there in your comfort zone and not come out and come and see really what is happening on the schools? We as parents need to take the stand for our children to see that they go back into class and just go about hearsay and just put the negative out there and blaming the teachers, blaming the school, blaming Mr. Newman. This is no more issue of Mr. Newman. He is battling, he is fighting his own battle, his legal battle. We are here to fight for our children, to see that they must go back into class because the June exams are coming up. And how can we do that if the parents don't come out and support our children?
And tell me just quickly, what would you like to see from the WCD? What is needed to ensure that children are going back into their classrooms? What is needed to ensure that stability that the WCD wants here?
Firstly, what they must do, they must reinstate Mr. Newman on his school. They fired him for the wrong reasons. There was no grounds for them to fire Mr. Newman. And these children here on the school, they know what is right and wrong, man. They are of adults on the school and they can see what is happening. And for the WCED to take a decision without consulting even with us as parents as well, I think it's very wrong. But to do the right thing, I think they should first do the right thing and instate our principal back in the school so we can have stability on the school and that our children can go into class and write their June exams.
Thank you very much. That was a parent, Kathy Weingard, just sharing her concerns, and she's echoed what many of the learners and the community members have been telling us today, that they want Mr. Newman to be reinstated, but they do also want stability. It's not that they want any teaching and learning to be disrupted, because I heard from two matriculants this morning that they are concerned about how this is going to impact their exams. And while they do want Mr. Newman back, they also want the WCED just to come in and to speak to pupils, to speak to parents, and to engage with them about what is happening, because they feel, as you heard the parents saying, that these two caretaker principals were brought in without much consultation with parents, with learners, and this transition process just simply hasn't been a smooth one. As you can see, pupils are supposed to be in class, but they are standing outside the school grounds. Some are on the school grounds milling around, and as the parent just informed us, from what we can see in the parking lot, very few cars, so it seems as if many of the educators aren't here. I've gone in twice into the school to see if I can speak to the two interim principals, but according to the receptionist, none of them are in today. It's only the acting deputy principal that's in today.
Monique, just before I let you go, I think context is important here. When looking around the school, do they have capacity, perhaps insofar as social distancing is concerned? Because you're saying he was let go because of insubordination. He refused to bring back children to school at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. So now, in the absence of facts, we're trying to establish that could he have refused because the classrooms are too small? What have you seen just looking around the school? Is this a fairly decent, capacitated school?
So like many public schools, this school also battles with issues of overcrowding, and it was this school also who had issues of social distancing, ensuring that they stick to those guidelines. And I remember in 2020 when Mr. Newman, along with even other educators from the schools in the surrounding areas, they were protesting along with parents, protesting against returning matriculants back to school. This was at the height of the pandemic, because they felt schools weren't properly equipped. There wasn't enough sanitizers, that there wasn't enough space in classrooms to ensure social distancing between matric pupils. So it wasn't COVID-19 safe. And this is what parents back then, they were standing alongside Mr. Newman. I remember, because we covered those protests for a couple of days. They were calling on the WCED to provide them with more help, to help them to find ways to keep not only the pupils safe, but also the staff. This is something, in speaking to Mr. Newman back then, that was something that he was very adamant on, that he's thinking about his staff, he's thinking about his pupils, that yes, he wants teaching and learning to continue, but it needs to be done in a safe manner. But because Mr. Newman refused the WCED's instructions to return to have pupils returning to school, he then faced all of these various disciplinary procedures. And for the last 2 years, we've seen this being played out in public, and finally the WCD dismissed him, and they eventually, through what they say is an independent investigation, found him guilty of 6 counts of misconduct. And as I mentioned earlier, he was given the option to either be demoted or to be transferred to another school. Both options he has declined, and he told us earlier in this month that he is going to be fighting it, that he is going to be appealing it. But the WCED says that legally they cannot reinstate him because they've now already followed all of these various processes over the last 2 years in leading up to the dismissal and the decision to do the demotion or the transfer. So what the WCED has been telling us is that they are calling on parents to also ensure stability at the school.
Oh, all right. Monique, thank you very much for that clarity. That's Monique Mortlock out in the Western Cape for us. Now we're